Tommy Lahren, and she's saying that there are no good white males out there for the women. And of course, she's talking about the white males. She would not say there aren't any good non-white males. If you pinned her down, are you saying this about Jews, Tommy? Well, of course not. Are you implying that black males? No. No, she never would say that. There's only one group that she would say this about when she says males. Trust me, you know I'm right. And that's white guys. We're going to talk a little bit about Tommy and her heresy and your typical conservative leadership, female leadership, which is feminist beyond imagination. You know what's going to be funny? The feminist female they're anti-white. Feminism is a subset of anti-whiteism, who are on the right. They call themselves conservatives, like TPUSA. We're going to talk about that. Maybe just show you a little blurb at least about that. They will have heard me talk about the majority of guys going to be 90 IQ in any particular circle. The majority of them going to be 90, 95 IQ. The majority of the females going to be around 100 IQ. They're going to hear me say that, and they're just going to be like, that's just the way it is. And then when I talk about them being feminist pigs and how wrong they are, they're going to lose it, and they're going to hate Jason, hate the no white guilt guy, hate that guy. He's a misogynist. But I thought you were a conservative. So I can use that concept to break down and destroy the West to get what I want. That's it. Take a look at this. TPUSA. They're getting ready to have their Young Women's Leadership Summit. Young Women's Leadership Summit. And I love what this commenter wrote here on this tweet. Said, how many sex tapes are on this list? I mean, it's really shocking. I can't actually see. I don't think I'll be able to see. Nala Ray, though, is one of the speakers. Nala, if you don't remember, is Nala the Ninja. And we talked about her and Michael Knowles doing that big interview with her, and now she's come to Christ, and now we have to let her preach to everyone else. This woman who made millions of dollars, many millions of dollars off of young men, and many of them, of course, are going to be white young men. So exploiting those young men. That's what's happening. Nala wasn't exploited. Nala was the exploiter of young men. But you also have Nancy Mace there, and I think between the two of them, you got plenty whore tapes. But this is what passes as conservatives, the conservative movement right now. Who else is up there? Of course, Riley Gaines. And remember, I predicted to you that there'll be a statue to Riley Gaines. Yes, Nancy Mace and Nala the Ninja are going to be speakers at the Young Women's Leadership Summit, sponsored by Turning Point US. This is the leader. Can you believe this? I mean, seriously, this is what passes for conservatism in 2025. Every year it gets worse. Every single year. Some of these others, of course, are girl bosses, and they are, so many of them, of course. I mean, Nancy Mace is a great example of this. An anti-white, flying under the subset of the superset that is anti-whiteism, the subset feminism. And it's every year that goes by, the right is more anti-white. She was a great example. Remember, we followed the case of Nancy Mace many, many years ago. I gave speeches on her when she broke into the Citadel and graduated from there, only to find out this past year that she broke in there, this male space, this white male space. And I know there were a few non-white guys that we allowed to participate as well. She broke in there, and she was a high school dropout. We just found that out this past year by her own words. And of course, we see the spectacle of her tantrums when showing her own sex tape. So I think between her and Nala the Ninja, we have many hundreds of sex tapes. Who knows? Who knows how many others that there are out there. Walsh had a pretty good video on this. We will reflect upon his video as he shares what Tomi Lahren was claiming. If we can just get that to show up as an option. Oh, finally, there we go. Let's roll.
Translation today, we turn to a segment on Laura Ingraham's show featuring conservative commentator Tomi Lahren. A clip from this segment went viral over the weekend with Tomi doling out some tough talk for young men who she says are lazy and feminized. Tomi has been on this subject for a long time. And what?
Okay, I'm going to point out, as I already said, she's not talking about non-white men. If she were pressed, there's no way. So her criticism, and everyone knows this, if they don't know it explicitly, they know it implicitly, that she's talking about white guys. What they're seeing in their head when she says this, effeminized and pathetic and in their, hanging to their mother's leg or whatever, what they're seeing are white guys in their heads.
We'll have more on that in a minute. Let's start with this most recent segment. Here it is. Listen.
It's a major problem. And, Speaker Johnson has been talking about those maybe deadbeat folks that are on Medicaid, and maybe some of those folks are the stay-at-home sons. We don't know. But I'll tell you.
Okay, so we have this legislation, the big, beautiful bill. It's not really terribly as beautiful as we would like it to be. Maybe it has pulchritude, but not beauty. Maybe it's got pulchritude, but not beauty. It's not beautiful. And what they're trying to do is incentivize states to not allow illegals, people who are not here legally, border crossers, intruders, to be on these sorts of roles, as well as others, public welfare in so many of its forms. And so Tomi is taking an opportunity here to go after males because she's a feminist. She's anti-white. That's one of the reasons why she's allowed on anti-white Fox. Both the left and the right are anti-white. Never forget it.
You this, leave it to Gen Z to rebrand laziness and social awkwardness as something cutesy, like a stay-at-home son. They did much the same thing with quiet quitting, where you can go to work and do less. And if you call it quiet quitting, it's somehow better. But Laura, I got to tell you, this is also.
You notice that Laura Ingraham didn't bat an eye as Lahren launches into this attack against young white, or all white males, I guess, but young white males in particular, maybe all white males by way of young white males. Laura Ingram's like, fine. Do you think Ingraham would be fine if somebody launched into an attack against young white females or all white females? Do you think she would just be like, sure, I'll just keep, yeah, you're just speaking my language? I doubt it.
Also a big problem when it comes to, I think, declining birth rates, people not getting married and having children. That's a big problem. They blame it on women. Well,
oh, so she doesn't like accountability. This is kryptonite to females, the vast majority of them, of course. But kryptonite, accountability. Yes, it's your fault. It is your fault. But in every case, when it comes to a female, when it comes to a feminist, of course, not every female, but in every case, when it comes to a feminist, it's no, that females are not doing anything wrong. It's all the fault of the men. It's all the fault of the males. They've just given up. They're just too lazy. They're just not trying hard enough. How about you try harder? How about the females try harder? This presumption that the male is always at fault is anti-white. And it's got to be extirpated from the body of our knowledge, from the social morality with which and through which we function, because there is no hope to remedy the issue with the destroyed relationships between men and women, destroyed families, declining birth rate. There's no hope of remedying this if we continue down this track with this notion, the presupposition that the male has always done something wrong. There's always something wrong with the male. They've got to somehow make it better again. No female accountability. And do not allow females to give you one of these like generalized, of course, girls do things wrong as well. But we're going to focus on the guys because that is every single conversation if you let them. Well, of course, there are cases over here. That's just a convenient statement to get the conversation back to being focused on males and how wrong they are, how bad they are, why, if girls are doing anything bad, it's because of the white males. Does this sound like the rest of the anti-whiteism? Because it is anti-whiteism. Well, we just saw some of these stats about black males. Are they accurate? Maybe. And if they are accurate, anti-whites will tell you they're like that because of white males. No difference with this bitch here. We're not having families. We have these busted the relationships can't even get started. And who's to blame? The white males. Not what's in everybody's face. The same way it is when it comes to black males and what they may or may not be doing, resulting in data and stats that look like that, which may or may not be accurate. No focus on them. What are they doing to cause this problem? No accountability, no agency whatsoever, no responsibility, all of the benefits, all of the perks, without any of the duty. No, that is anti-whiteism from start to finish. Blame the white male. And as you can see, Fox News, extremely highly paid. And of course, both of these hardcore Christians, I guess we could say they're both Judeo-Christians, both hardcore Christianity's going to save us. Doesn't matter where all the priests and preachers, the seminary schools, where they go to school and learn. Doesn't matter what they're being taught. So Christianity is what's going to save us, even though it was already defeated by anti-whiteism. It's going to save us. Laura Ingraham not batting an eye at this. So let's see what this anti-white pig, we don't need to say, in addition, anti-male, because she's not anti-male. She's anti-white male. And that is anti-whiteism. That's anti-white. Let me ask you, if this were happening in the Jewish community, what would they say about the ideology animating the faked up, plasticed up face of this wench? Well, they would say she's anti-Semitic because she's attacking Jews. She's attacking Jewish identity. They would call her a self-hating Jew. So don't be a white moron. Don't be a 90 IQ, typical average white male, 90, 95 IQ, and say, well, technically, it's not anti-white. Race has nothing to do with it. Shut up.
Well, look at what young women have to choose from. The pickings are slim. Yeah.
And look at Ingraham is just shaking her head. She's like, yeah, the pickings are. Look at what they have to choose from. You know what? F you, Tommy Lahren. I can smell you from here. I think you need some Lumi. Get at all of that. Get in all those areas. This chick has played with more rods than a professional fisherman. And she's going to tell us that the pickings are slim.
Yes, we might have a feminism problem in America, but it's the feminization of men.
So there you have it. The convenient statement. Yes, we might have a feminization problem. So by saying that, I've just taken that argument away from you as far as she's concerned. And now I'm just going to set it aside and I'm going to continue this howitzer level endless attack against white males. And those are the males I'm worried about. So don't come at me, guys, in the multiracial anti-non-white movement. Don't come at me and say, oh, he's a Jew. He's a Fed. He's a whatever. Don't come at me. I'm worried about the white guys.
A lot of young women out there that want to get married. They want to have kids. They want to have stable families.
No.
Birth rates, people not getting married and having children. You know, And if you call it quiet quitting, it's somehow better. But Laura, I got to tell you, this is also a big problem when it comes to, I think, declining birth rates, people not getting married and having children. You know, that's a big problem. They blame it on women. Well, look at what young women have to choose from. The pickings are slim. Yes, we might have a feminism problem in America, but it's the feminization of men. There are a lot of young women out there that want to get married. They want to have kids. They want to have stable families, but there are a lot of young men out there who want to live in mama's basement and order DoorDash. And therein lies a big part of the problem.
All right. Let's speak to that real quick, and then we'll hear what Walsh has to say. We'll speed him up a little bit. He doesn't bitch as quick as Laren does. So we'll speed him up. But there are a lot of feminized guys, white guys. There are tons. They are everywhere. That's a consequence of anti-whiteism. Not attacking this problem as a people to remedy our people's problem. Instead, trying to create a cutout for females and the blame game without concern whatsoever for the facts, for the reality. Who decides who gets to have a mate? Not guys. That's called rape. Females decide. Why are the white guys living in their mothers' and fathers' basements? Why are they there? Because they can't get a fucking decent job. We started off talking about American Airlines. Every single company is doing the exact same thing across the West. No white guys, thank you. Again, my opinion. You'll have to look into it for yourself. No white guys, thank you. We're going to take the girls and we're going to take the non-whites. And all of these females, like Tomi Lahren, are applauding it. It's the age of the boss bitch. They're going to get out there. They're going to get in front. They're doing their own thing. They're in charge now. They don't need no man. They don't need no man. They're in charge now. They are your boss. Across the United States, we looked at that data last year. It was showing only one state in which women were not the largest number of home buyers. I mean, the old system that worked well forever for the white race has been completely inverted. White males are not getting jobs because they're white males. When they get jobs, they're not the jobs that they deserve. They're far less in prestige, far less in pay than they deserve, than their talents warrant, than their dues they paid warrant. And so what are they supposed to do? Knowing, you know what? Black women don't do this to black males. Jewish women don't do this to Jewish males. We only see this out of white females. Everywhere you look, you miserable skank, you see boss bitches everywhere. And then you're going to complain that the white guys are in their basements? No shit. No shit. You have these big women's forums where you all sit around talking about how you've got girl power. You've got this Vagina loyalty to each other. You're hooking each other up. You're climbing the ladder, getting jobs in the corporate world, in the business world. That is the basis of those jobs, the basis of those businesses is that they're not going to go to white males. So your competition is removed. How are you as a white male business owner going to compete with the female in business, the white female in business who does the exact same thing you do when she gets the contracts for American Airlines and Delta and the casino in Las Vegas? And when she gets all the contracts, she gets the forgiven loans from the federal government. She gets the grants. She gets help from the federal government for accounting and the business and everything. How are you going to compete? You can't. So if you're trying to struggle as a business owner, as a white guy, increasingly, and in a majority, your days are numbered and they're lousy, and your business by far and large is not doing well because hurdles and bulwarks, pitfalls, or punji sticks are all around you. And then the women around us are saying, you're the reason why you're not doing good enough. You're the reason why we're not having families. You're the reason why you're not out of your mother's basement and driving a Aston Martin right now. You're the reason. You're the only person holding you back. Fuck you. Absolutely repulsive anti-whiteism. And of course, she's promoted by Fox News because Fox News is anti-white on the right. So of course that's promoted. But what's the deeper issue, of course? The deeper issue, as I alluded to a moment ago, is that females are the ones who decide who gets a partner, not males, because that's illegal. It's identified as rape. So we have to go out into the world, and all the women know this. And when they don't own up to it, they're lying. It's as clear as the sun rising on a cloudless day. They know that they go out into the world, and for all of those years at the beginning of their most valuable sexual market value, not the most value that they can have as a person, but when they are most valuable in the sexual market, they are giving 100%, not every single one, of course, but every woman can see and every man can see that they're giving all of their attention to the prettiest faced guys they can find. Everyone knows this. So all of those other guys that Tomi Lahren is slandering as losers in their they're not trying hard enough. They don't have a fucking chance unless or until they can get a face transplant. And you can. This is not just anecdotal. It's seen. The data is seen. The anecdotes are proven by the data across all of the dating websites, with women finding roughly 10% of the guys on the dating website dateable, and all the men finding 90% of the women on the dating websites dateable. This follows them up into, it's different for each female, up into anywhere from the mid-20s to the mid-30s, sometimes even older, before the analogs for a pretty face begin to resonate with females. How much money does he make? What kind of car does he drive? Is he stable? Is he going to be a good servant? Not so much talk about whether or not he's going to be a great dad or a great husband, leader. And when I say husband, that's what I mean. Leader of the relationship. Not so much talk about that. It does happen here and there, but not so much talk about that. So what are these guys supposed to do? What are we supposed to do who are not in the top 10% of prettiest faces? I traveled this past weekend through several cities, airports, rental car places, hotels, tourist spots. I'm not a horrible looking guy. I'm definitely not in that top 10% of pretty faces of guys. Not a single bit of interest. Not a single look. Not one time from any female. And what would females like Lahren say? What have they always said? Oh, well, you're not doing enough. You need to go up to women. You need to go try for them. Why would you want to? At least I don't. Win someone over who's not interested in you. What's the use of that? It's pathetic. Why would I want to go up to some woman somewhere and try to be extremely witty and funny and etc. so that she can evaluate whether or not she'll give me a shred of her time? Fuck that. Because the reality is that we know as guys that when a woman is interested in somebody, and don't give me this shit, don't give me this shit at all, that, oh, well, I'm different because I'm so shy. I'm different. I would never look at a guy. Bullshit. No more lying from the. In fact, if a woman's mouth is moving, odds are she's lying. Not every woman, but this is just a formula for success because it's going to be the norm. The reality that all the guys know and all the girls know, and we've got to say it out loud, that if a girl is interested, no matter how shy she claims to be, she's going to signal to the guy. She's going to let him know some way. The most prominent way, of course, is to catch his glance. If she's going out of her way to not see you, which is the rest of us, girls are like, you're like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? If she's not looking, if she's not trying to catch your glance, that means she's already taken a look. She's determined that you are not in the category that she would like to have as the Prince Charming with the beautiful face that's going to sweep her off her feet for the night, for the week, for the next 2-3 months. You're not that guy. Why would you want to go up to that woman that you know has already determined, no, thank you, and try to win her over? I hear about these, especially back in the day when I used to go to church and all of these different churches. And I heard all of these stories of these couples, and they're so happy. And in so many of these cases, they talk about and they giggle about how the guy had to jump over flaming barrels while riding dolphins in order to finally get her attention, in order to finally get her interest. Fuck that. I don't want anybody who doesn't want me. I mean, are you joking? And so many men out there have, after generation, even though they have this powerful motivator inside of them to go out and find someone to have a life with, find someone to have a family with. And that's the majority of white guys, just as a by the by. Find a family with. They know there's no hope. They know that there's no hope until the woman gets to that point where she's finally said she's been used by enough of the pretty guys. Now she's going to start to look to peer pair. Who's more on my level? Who can I finally find so that I'm not alone for the rest of my life? So that maybe I can have a child later and I can have that experience. So true. That is the thinking. That's what's happening. Now, Walsh takes a little bit of a different angle. That is true as well, that a lot of women today are so absorbed with anti-whiteism that they don't want a family. They're not interested in having a family. They just want to go out and be the boss. And so that's why families aren't occurring. That is in part true as well. Most of these females, I can guarantee you this though, that want to be the boss babe, that want to climb the ladder, most of these females are in a moment ready to abandon whatever that is in favor of one of those prettiest faced guys in the top 10% and give him everything that she has and can be. And to this point, I want to read TJ shared a little story, very short paragraph here. I mean, this is every guy's experience. TJ wrote about the pretty-faced males. I must share a story. Me and friends, including, let's nickname him Handsome Aaron, was visiting a nearby university town and walking through the campus. On our way out, we needed to walk through a long tunnel underneath a road. We entered and we meet a young woman who I can see nearly has a brain aneurysm seeing Handsome Aaron. Eyes like saucer plates, jaw open, and walking extra slow. She nearly breaks her neck passing us by trying to lock eyes with Aaron. Already, this is funny to me. We continue walking at the Now, before we get to the last sentence here, this is the experience of all the guys that Tomi Lahren is slandering as losers, not trying hard enough. This is all of we all have, we either have friends like that or we see it happening for other guys, and you're not trying hard enough. You're not trying hard enough. You're not hitting, you're not waking before the sun rises and going to sleep many hours after the sun sets, at work, at the gym, eating just right, trimming yourself just right, having the most epic wardrobe, driving a super sport car like an Aston. You're just not trying hard enough. The reality is that we are in these environments and we watch girls like this break their fucking necks for these guys that are way superior to them in looks, infinitely above their looks. Guys that we all know will use them for a day or a week or 2 or 3 months or whatever, by the way, while using other girls, causing these women to become jaded and hating men because they're all just dogs and they're all out cheating and they're all out they're all self-absorbed. Look, babe, the guy with the prettiest face is going to be self-absorbed. Everywhere he goes, the women are breaking their necks to see them and to lock eyes and say, hey, everything I got is yours. Just come talk to me. Of course, they're going to be self-centered. Of course, they're going to be self-absorbed. For the love of God, everything in this whole dating dynamic and relationship dynamic is nothing but lies from females. Just like we're seeing Tomi Lahren right here. So we all witness that. There's no amount. Now, guess what? This guy, you could say TJ or whoever other friend that was with him, could go ahead, work his ass off, do everything that I'm saying, and wait, and wait, and wait until the girl that broke her neck walking down through the tunnel that didn't show him or them any attention but gave it all to handsome Aaron, until she finally decides that she's been wrung out enough and now she's ready to match with a peer. How nice. What a choice victory for us guys then. What? Oh, you finally been wrung out? Oh, now you're all jaded and you look at me as inferior because you've been with these pretty-faced guys? This is so true. It is such a truism that we see these tales all the time, even videos. I saw a video last month of a woman in her like 60s or 70s, and she's the husband's still alive, and she's talking about her real love was some guy from back just before college. Didn't get to see a picture of him, but she talked about how beautiful he was. That was the real love. This is just the sorry sot that married her. Fuck these women. Fuck Tomi Lahren. So yeah, you could wait around. We could keep trying and keep trying and keep trying until finally this girl decides, well, she's been wrung out. She's been used. She now hates men. Men are all self-absorbed and they're all cheaters and etc. Now she's finally going to take a look at the guys that were walking along with handsome Aaron. What a wonderful find. And she'll probably show up with a marriage or two behind her, a child or several tagged along behind her, belonging to one or more men from her past. Oh, why would we not want that? Their value is so great now. Now that they've either hit the wall or they're about to hit the wall, their sexual market value because of the children, because of the old marriages, because of the looks fading, because of the etc., because she's aging like milk. I mean, these are some frank truths that need to be spoke when you have somebody like Lahren, as popular as she is, attacking white males, because that's who she's attacked. It's your fault. You're not doing enough. So what happens with the rest of this story from TJ? We continued walking through the tunnel, and at the exit of the tunnel, we meet the same young woman again. I keel over crying with laughter, slapping my knees, realizing she ran around the tunnel, up over the road, and back to the other side to get another chance of catching the eye of handsome Aaron. Meanwhile, we're told more flowers, more love notes. If you just only were more obsequious, if you were only more sycophantic, if you only knew what I wanted before I knew it and gave it to me, then you would get the kind of treatment that these guys get. Of course, you're not. Of course, we know that we're not.
So Tommy blames young men for the declining birth rates, saying that women want to get married and have children, but men would rather stay in mama's basement and order DoorDash. It's an interesting accusation coming from a 32-year-old woman who, as far as I know, doesn't have children. Her Wikipedia article at least mentions a chihuahua, but no human children. But in any case, Tommy, as I mentioned earlier, has been on this subject for a long time. She's spent the last several years blasting men for their incompetence and their insufficiency. In fact, the last time she was featured on the Daily Cancellation was 5 whole years ago when she said this.
Now, I've often talked about the vacation of America and how men are no longer men. I talk to my mom about this a lot, and she says, well, maybe it's just the guys in Texas. Maybe it's just the guys in Los Angeles. It is not just the guys in Los Angeles, Nashville, Dallas, and they're not any better in the Midwest. They, quite frankly, I think they're trash all over this country. And the age.
You can see how attractive this piece of garbage is, right? She's only attractive. She's meretricious. She's a meretrix. You should put that in your vocabulary because that's what this pig is. You can see how attractive she is. When she goes to the airport, there are scores of men that are trying to get her attention. On her level, couple rungs below, maybe a couple rungs above, that are trying to catch her eye. Scores. Every trip she goes out on the town, scores are trying to get her attention. Why are they all trash? Because the guys who are 10's prettiest faces have already rung through this thing. They've shown up. Now she's jaded. They've shown up and she's like, this is Mr. Miracle. And then come to find out that he has 5 or more others that look like this, and 5 or more after that are a couple rungs down. This is real, folks. This is absolutely real. That he's having. And he's run through. So now they're trash. Guys are trash. That's where this ferocity is coming from. Where else would that come from? Where else? She's been used, run through, abused, cheated on, etc.
Range of about 20 to I think about 55, maybe even.
Okay, so listen to the age range.
I think they're trash all over this country. And the age range of about 20 to I think about 55, maybe even 60. A lot of men are trash. A lot of men don't know how to treat women. A lot of men don't know how to really, quite frankly, pull their heads out of the sand and pay attention.
So don't know how to treat women. What is she talking about there? She's not talking about you're not getting me enough flowers. She's talking about that the guys are getting looks from other women that she would have, and they're giving them attention back because, of course, they're going to. Because, of course, if there's anything that girls are told, anything that young girls, little girls are told right now is never go anywhere near a man with a pretty face. Nothing will be. It doesn't mean that the guys who don't have pretty faces are all automatically going to be good. That's what you have to interview them for to find out which guys are good. But the guys with pretty faces, they're never going to be good. My God. And why? Because everywhere they go, women are breaking their necks to get their attention in the tunnel and then running back around the other side to give it a second try.
A lot of men are trash, she said 5 years ago. Men are trash all over this country, was her exact quote. And that's the kind of statement that if I said that about women, I would be denounced by both sides as a radical misogynist and likely domestic abuser. It's the kind of statement that you cannot say about any broad demographic except men. I mean, imagine saying, women are trash all over the country, or gays are trash all over the country, or black people are trash all over the country. Those are unacceptable statements in polite society, but a lot of men are trash all across the country is commentary so acceptable and normalized that we hear it even from pundits on the right. But let's go back to what Tommy said not 5 years ago, but 5 days ago on Laura Ingram's show. Again, she said, quote, young women want families. Too many young men want DoorDash and mama's basement. Now let's leave aside how insulting and dismissive this statement is. The much greater problem is that it's just simply inaccurate. In fact, polls have consistently shown for years now that young men are significantly more likely to desire family life than young women. There are more young men who want to start families than there are young women who want to start.
Okay, let me address that really quickly because I mentioned it a moment ago, and that is that, and of course, yes, this is anecdotal, but he's talking about polls as well. So I'm going to add an anecdote. Over the course of my life, the vast majority of white guys that I've known did not want to whore around with women. They wanted to find somebody to be their other half. That's what they wanted. Now, it didn't hold true for other groups that I knew and the way that they talk about females and the way that they approach and etc. And not all white guys that I knew just wanted to find somebody to be their friend, their lover, potentially a mate for life. But that was the majority. And here he is citing data that guys in surveys are saying they want to have a family.
Families. And these are not like the findings of Andrew Tate or the red pill YouTuber, but of research firms like the Pew Research Center. Okay. In other words, these are findings from organizations that are don't have an anti-feminist bias. Let's put it that way. And according to a recent Pew study, 57% of men between the ages of 18 and 34 want to be parents someday. For women in the same age bracket, the number is only 45%. So yes, less than half of young women want to be mothers, as opposed to nearly 60% of young men who want to be fathers. And this is not just Pew Research Center claiming this. Multiple polls over the past 2 decades and across the world have found that young men are more likely to want children than young women. There was even a poll done in Nigeria a couple of years ago that found the same kind of gender gap. So this is a very consistent finding, which means that there just isn't any evidence to support Tommy's claim. In fact, the data tells us that it's young women who, more often, would prefer DoorDash and mama's basement. And it's not just that women don't want kids. Reading now from a New York Post report from April, quote, women have certainly come a long way, no longer feeling the need to put a ring on it due to social or cultural pressures. It turns out U.S. women are ditching the traditional idea of marriage and instead choosing to live their best single lives. And the proof is in the data. According to a 2023 Pew Research survey, almost half of U.S. women didn't view marriage as an important element of a fulfilling life.
Let me jump in right there. What ideology is giving women this objective? Anti-whiteism. The way for us to address anti-whiteism is to come together as a people, object to it as a people, not object to it as females. And they want to cut out. Or males. We never get a cutout, but neither way. We've got to come together as a people and put an end to this. Recognize how destructive this is. Look at the outcomes. The outcomes are that there aren't white families. There aren't white children. And then white females blame the males for that. Who and what should they be blaming? They should be blaming anti-whites and anti-whiteism instead of blaming white males.
Percentage of women looking for romance is on a steep decline. According to a 2022 Pew survey, only 34% of single gals were looking for a serious romantic relationship, which is down from 38% in a 2019 survey. So not only are a majority of young women not looking to start families, the majority aren't looking for any kind of serious romantic relationship at all. That's what basically all of the studies and surveys tell us. Now, I'll be the first to say that most studies are fake, but in this case, they also line up with our anecdotal observations. For example, social media is full of videos of young women glamorizing single life. And this is a whole genre of videos that we've played and talked about many times on the show. Here's just one recent example.
I never ended up with a good guy until I figured out how to truly love being single and doing things alone. I don't think we give enough credit to single women who love being single because there's still the whole childless cat lady trope out there. Like, you can enjoy life alone. You don't need somebody to bear witness to your joy to make it exist.
Well, actually, I have to tell you, you can't really enjoy life alone. You can't. You do need someone to bear witness to your joy to make it exist. Happiness is only real when shared, and the word completely alone. It'd be possible to be stranded on a desert forever has. We desire companionship, which is why these single women who are happy alone actually spend their whole lives searching for a way to replace the companionship of a man. That's why these single women still have one-night stands. It's why they become obsessed with their pets. It's why they go on podcasts to talk about how happy they are. It's why they post about it on social media. They are looking for human connection and validation and companionship in other forms, some form that will sufficiently replace the form of a man who loves them and is devoted to them. And they never find it. And so they are never really happy, no matter how desperately they claim otherwise. Now, women aren't the only ones giving up on marriage and family life, on it more often and in greater numbers. In fact, there is a distinct difference even between the young men who have given up on family life and the young women who have given up on family life. Like, even when you compare those two groups, the men and women who both say that they're not going to get married or have kids, there's still a difference. And the difference is this. The young men usually have given up on the idea of having a family despairingly because they think it's not an attainable goal. The young women
Yes.
give up on it happily because they think being childless is a path to personal empowerment and freedom. Privacy has become a luxury in this country, and that's time. None of powered by this decision.
So, yes, with the caveat that I added earlier, that they're giving up, they believe because of anti-whiteism, that they're going to be happier. It's a decision that they willfully, gladly make until or unless they can rope in one of those super pretty faced guys and change everything. I mean, this goes all the way back to, it's not only my own experience, because I've talked with many others who have had the exact same experience, but in my elementary school, there were two pretty boys, and all the girls in the entire school, elementary school, were fixated on those two boys. None of the other boys existed. That's the arc for all of life. We need to recognize this. We need to recognize that females are the ones that decide who gets to have a family, who gets a shot at demonstrating that he's a hard worker, that he could be a great leader in a relationship, in a marriage, that he could be a great father, that he could be a great husband, that he would be. If guys are not being given that opportunity, they're going to sit in the basement, Tommy. You yourself are not giving but the prettiest guys the opportunity. So what are the others supposed to do? If girls do not decide that they are going to be interviewing, and I'm just using that term to address the dating and pairing and etc., if they're not going to be interviewing guys who are on their level of looks, or even a rung or two below their level of looks, if they're not willing to interview guys are not going to try, because their trying is a waste of time. They're going to turn instead to themselves. And this is the reality of it out there, guys. So, you know, you don't need me to tell you what it's like out there. You know. So, make yourselves happy. Don't take the blame for females complaining that there aren't enough families and women want to have babies. They want to have babies, all right, with the top 10% of prettiest faced guys. I mean, let's really boil these surveys and these studies down to the crux of the matter. Ask the women. Let's just do this. Think about this. He talked about Pew Research and how many guys, the percentage of guys that wanted to have families was higher than the percentage of girls who said they wanted to have families nowadays. Let's boil that and tease out the truth a little bit further. Ask those same women, with what guys do you want to have a family? Because I guarantee you that is going to reflect what we see in the dating apps. The 10% of prettiest faces. How many of those women that, even though that percentage is lower than males who want a family, how many of those women are actually willing to have a family with a guy who's not in that top 10% of prettiest faces, who is not part of the 10% dateable on the dating apps? I'm going to guarantee that if you teased out the rest of that data, you're going to find that it's very few who say, sure, one of the 90% that I find undateable, that's who I'd like to have a family with. It's such a shame that whores like Tomi Lahren, anti-white whores like her, have such a voice, and that so many people give her attention. That so many people, that the establishment, the anti-white establishment, anti-whites on the right, put her in everybody's face, and everybody wants to show up and hear what she has to say. Girls and guys, they all want to show up because she's an attractive female, at least on the surface. A Meritrix, at least on the surface, attractive. So they all want to show up and see what she has to say. Because don't you know, the deepest wisdom, the smartest takes come from the youngest, prettiest people. I mean, for sake, you take the tradition and the actual knowledge and wisdom of the West, that we knew that fools can get old, certainly, and they can die fools, and Lord knows there are a lot of them today. But if you wanted wisdom, you had to go to somebody that's been around and through it and have had some good processing power over the years. That was such a, not just a trope, but a fact of knowledge in the body of Western kind, that in Star Wars, when they wanted to convey to you that this guy has the deepest of wisdom, they gave you Yoda. That's how old the white person had to be. Really, I mean, they really wanted to tell you, hey, white people, that's the audience for Star Wars. Hey, white people, this guy has the answers. He has so many of the answers. He's horribly wrinkled. He's 2 foot tall and is green. That's how long he's been here. That's how long this brilliant person has been here, that he's now this little troll thing. But no, what do people turn to? The youngest and the prettiest. What a shame. By the way, did anybody guess? Did anybody guess the take her to the beach or take her to the pool? And who in the white sympathetic sphere said that first and loudest? And his primary book is over 1,000 pages. Did anybody guess that? William Gailey Simpson. Which Way, Western Man. I don't know if anybody did it, but if you did, big points to you.